Borge Holmberg, from Lund, Sweden, is an internationally known and respected pioneer in the field of distance education. He is particularly recognized for his work and contribution to the empathy approach and individualization and individual distance learning. Holmberg is best known for his theory of personal communication between teachers and learners in distance education. He regards distance education as the conversational interaction between the student on the one hand and the tutor or advisor of the host organization. The central concepts of his theory are motivation, empathy, non-contiguous communication, learner autonomy, and interpersonal communication. For him, feelings of empathy and belonging promote students' motivation to learn and influence the learning favorably. These feelings are brought by real and simulated dialogue. Real dialogue occurs in distance education in interaction and writing, in the telephone, by computer, and so forth. Simulated dialogue is created by a conversational way of course writing. This thinking is based on 6 postulates. 1. Feelings of a personal relation between the learning and teaching parties promote study, pleasure, and motivation. 2. Such feelings can be fostered on the one hand by well-developed self-instructional material and on the other hand by interaction. 3. Intellectual pleasure and study motivation are favorably to the attainment of study goals and the use of proper study classes and methods. 4. The atmosphere, language, and convention of friendly conversation favor feelings of personal relations, according to postulate 1. 5. Messages given and received in conversational form and easily understood and remembered. 6. Conversation concepts can be successfully applied for distance education in the media available. This theory focused on student autonomy, but he also wanted to focus on interaction and how pleasure motivates students and also benefits to distance education to society and the learners. In short, Holmberg encouraged distance education teachers or distance education hosts to build rapport and have a good relationship with their students because this will foster greater results to student success and learning. Independent study, as the concept suggests, is how our learning occurs in master of distance education, since we work independently on our own, with the teacher's help of a weekly student guide. This concept is also characterized by C. Wiedemeyer and further examined by M. Moore as an essential component of distance education. Students have the freedom to read the modules anytime whenever it fits their schedule. There is no danger in missing out as all modules are available. There is no excuse for not learning just because you dozed off in the classroom, you were sick, or a classmate distracted you during the session, and you were not able to follow or understand what the teacher was discussing. Peters also describes this freedom to develop independent learning as the autonomous learner model. The students are empowered to be autonomous, self-conscious, and self-reliant in their studies. They can select what they want to read and apply concepts that they think are important based on the learning objectives. Students have been given great responsibility to do their tasks and be fully engaged in the program for them to become a successful learner. Correspondence education, a form of independent study that started in the 1800s, was an integral part of distance education evolution. This type of education was driven by specific economic activities and characterized by the available technology at the time, which is the post system. Learning materials were delivered to different locations and returned via the post system. This distance education was especially essential to learners in the military, government officials or railroad workers who didn't have access to education for a significant amount of time because they were assigned or located far from the towns and cities that offer the learning program. This period helped the thinkers shape and define the nature and theoretical concepts of distance education. One of the prime thinkers who shaped distance education definition and concept was Otto Peters, who described distance education as the industrialized form of teaching. It caters to many learners, and there was division of labor to carry it out. Different units were identified and tasked with various activities to make correspondence education successful. One unit prepares the material, another unit to print the material, and one each to distribute and evaluate. There was a clear division of labor of these different units, hence, it was characterized as an industrialized form of education. Community of inquiry is a group of learners who interact collaboratively through discourse and to construct meaning and understanding. It began in the pre-digital era as a learning concept that tried to understand the impact of social interaction on learning. The fundamentals for the community of inquiry model began in the late 1800s by a scientist named Charles Sanders Peirce. He theorized how to approach topics without the use of one's opinion, but rather with the help of the scientific method. He also proposed the idea of pragmatism, a formal logic of inquiry that applied to science. He believes that communication and community were instrumental factors in scientific discoveries. Another significant philosopher that contributed to the development of the community of inquiry framework is John Dewey. He further confirmed Peirce's belief of the important role of community when working towards a common goal. His beliefs for the first to connect the role that schools would have within this theory. John Dewey's vision: schools were meant to resemble society and were to be democratic in nature. These ideas were substantial to the field of education as it shifted the emphasis from rote academic learning to inquiry and application in the real world. The ideas of Peirce and Dewey were furthered by a group of researchers from the University of Alberta, who are Terry Anderson, Randy Garrison, and Walter Archer. They identified the key components that each contribute to meaningful learning experience. The community of inquiry framework represents the elements involved in creating a constructivist learning experience. The first of these elements is a social presence. The social presence is the ability of individuals to interact with the learning community as their real self. Communicating and collaborating in an accepting environment with other members of the community. It allows the participants to establish themselves as real people with personalities in this community. It is essential as it forms the basis of students feeling comfortable enough within a social context to openly discuss course-related topics. The second element is cognitive presence. It is the ability of learners to confirm meaning through engagement and reflection. This includes forming ideas, connecting ideas, and applying new ideas. It measures the student's ability to construct both knowledge and understanding on an individual and a collective level. Emphasis is placed on sustained communication to aid the development of a better understanding of the concepts being taught. The third element is teaching presence. Teaching presence is the design direction and facilitation of materials to stimulate both the cognitive and social processes. It refers to the teacher's ability to set the curriculum, properly organize courses, and actively participate in constructing meaning-making for the students. According to this model, teachers are essential regulators of the student learning process. Combining these elements creates the setting of the climate to the community, selecting the content, supporting the discourse of the learners. Together, the social presence, cognitive presence, and teaching presence make up the educational experience. The development of the community of inquiry framework has led to numerous research studies about its applications and online learning, as well as within fields outside of education, such as public administration. The conducted researches on the community of inquiry framework clearly shows that integration of this model benefits the success of the instructional programs. A point of consensus among many distance education researchers and practitioners is that interaction is a crucial element for learning, and thus, for effective online education. Theorists identified different types of interaction that involves the intervention of human and instructional materials. These interactions have a pivotal role in the student's development and learning process. Michael G. Moore's three types of interaction was the first model to systematically define interaction in distance education. For him, there are three essential components of interaction, each viewed from a student perspective. These are learner-content, learner-instructor, and learner-learner. Learner-content interaction is a distinguishing strength of all distance education and refers to students' intellectual interactions with content that result in changes in understanding, perceptions, and cognitive structures. When a student reads a text and engages in an internal dialogue about its content, a student practices guided didactic conversations or interaction with the content. Learner-instructor interaction refers to all communications between the teacher and the student that occurs throughout the course. It also refers to the organization that the educator provides to guide learning throughout the course and the role that the educator plays in motivating and supporting students' learning. Learner-learner interaction is a newer dimension in distance education setting. This is an interaction between one learner to other learners. It is both cognitive and social, and refers to communication between and among peers with or without the teacher present. Terry Anderson's modes of interaction extends Moore's model to include three other forms of interaction. These are viewed as indispensable components that combine to support deep and meaningful learning in online and distance education. Teacher-content interaction. Teachers will interact with content through the use of adaptable search engines that will learn from previous teacher behavior to search the networks effectively and periodically for relevant information and data. Teacher-teacher interaction is a collaboration of ideas, and among other issues, that helps create a better learning experience. Teachers' collaboration impacts students' achievements and allows the teacher to explore a new concept. Content interaction is a new model of educational interaction in which content is programmed to interact with other automated information sources to constantly update. Anderson also proposes the equivalency theorem that is said to be the application of the modes of interaction. He claims that deep and meaningful formal learning is supported as long as one of the three forms of interactions is at a high level. In a distance education setting, student content is on a high level because most of the time student is studying independently. After reading and understanding the content of the module, interaction with the fellow learners follow. With the use of an online forum, students have an opportunity to share their ideas, opinions that they learned from the reading materials. Lastly, student-teacher interaction is low since the teacher serves only as a facilitator, moderator, and monitor the progress throughout the learning process. Choosing a right mix of interaction and communication with the students is important. Therefore, the theory may guide the educator on how to choose and utilize the right mix of interaction and technology in teaching to create a significant learning experience.